Are there any other questions? Yes, Trustee Brown.
Yes, no real questions, just comments. And so thank you for the just kind of speaking up and sharing. And when you were speaking, I wrote down just a few notes that the original task force, about 5 years ago, it did include members of the teacher associations.
It included teachers. I don't know their membership in any organizations. If you go on the DOI webpage, there's a list of everyone who was a member of the original task force at the time, and it included people who were members of their campus-based shared decision-making committee. The athletic director or assistant AD at the time was on it. I mean, it had a wide range of people, business partners, and then just people from the community were on it. And I was one of the principals that was on it originally at that time. I was the principal of Hastings and was selected to be on the committee.
We had over 80 people on the committee, and the organizations were a part of the...
We filled this room, literally.
They were part of it.
And then also, you said you just had a public meeting, public hearing. That's where anyone could come. Yeah,
it was a posted meeting, and we had it at the Center for Talent Development. Unfortunately, we had no public participation.
And that's exactly what I was going to ask. What did that participation look like?
Exactly. So, but we did have the EIC we were able to discuss things, and it was interesting that they also brought up, and we discussed it in detail, the certification question and the class size issue, and I shared with them very openly that has always been a very prominent part of the board's concerns, and we always would address that. If we ever use the certification ability within the plan, we would first visit with organizations and everything to talk about the why that we do that. And what was interesting is as I was going through the last 5 years, we have had to certify some teachers outside of the normal channels of certification, but that's through CTE, and there's a pathway for teachers through CTE that's not a normal that you can grant certification for based on industry-based experience and things. And we certainly have done that at the Career Center, but that was not part of the DOI plan. That was just part of what's allowed by CTE regulations.
Okay. You must have snuck a peek at my notes because I was going to say, I remember that there were a couple of years, or maybe 1 or 2 years ago, when we had to do that certification for our CTE teachers.
I circled back with Dr. Powell, and I'm not trying to put her on the spot, and she told me what the term was, and I cannot remember.
Okay.
But we've only had a couple of those, I think, as I researched that over the last 5 years.
Yeah, I don't think, as far as I think maybe once, and it was just maybe 2 or 3 teachers.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then I think, the last thing mentioned is that I know that right around August or September, the board, we usually get a lot of comments about that class size waiver. And so can you talk just a little bit about how the DOI addresses the class size?
Basically, since we had conversations with the teacher organizations, we said that we would not apply that piece to the District of Innovation. So we still submit our class size waivers to the state. Many districts that have DOI do not do that, but because we made that agreement with the teacher organization, so we chose to go ahead and submit them to TEA.
Okay, so the agreement was with the teacher organizations,
well,
kind of informally.
Well, we were talking about, that was a big concern that we wouldn't do that, so we wanted to be transparent. We said we'd follow the other procedure. So we haven't used that piece of the District of Innovation.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. So in other words, class waivers, that was something that we did prior to DOI as well. Right?
So DOI allows us not to have to submit class waivers, but we chose not to use that piece because we told the teacher organizations those two things. We talked to them about certifications or class size waivers. So we have not opted to use that. So I currently submit my information to the state as if we were not a District of Innovation.
And just for comparison, if you recall, I don't know if it was last year or 2 falls ago, but in trying to prepare comparisons of class size waivers between us and others, any district that is a District of Innovation does not report class size waivers, so we have nothing to compare ourselves to. So So many districts don't do it. We continue to do it. So whenever we look for comparisons, well, how does Alief compare to XYZ district? The DOI districts don't report it, so we're unable to compare ourselves.
So we did research that with other districts, and we said, how did you get 0 class size waivers? They said, and everyone we spoke to said that's how they opted out of that.
I still think that there's a little bit of confusion about what class size waivers are. Whenever people come to me, they're like, oh, you just want to put a bunch of kids in the classrooms and the teachers are overwhelmed. And I think it's important that we continue to just educate ourselves of what that what the class size waiver means. And so that we as board members, because I'm sure we'll soon be getting those conversations, so that we can articulate that to the community and our teachers and our organizations, that what does that class size waiver actually mean? So
the class size waiver allows us to, the state says 22-1 in pre-K through 4. So children in any pre-K through 4 class must be at 22-1 or lower. If we have to have an extra student, like 23 students in that classroom, so that because we can't make another classroom for one student, we submit a class waiver. So anytime you go over the 22 in grades pre-K through 4 in any classroom, you have to submit a waiver.
Okay.
Darlene stole my question. It's every year we hear about class size waivers because I think there is a huge misunderstanding. And it's a complex situation. I know the initial staffing is based on projections. Then we have the PEAMS submission date, which changes the numbers.
So I'm gonna put a halt to that real quick, because class size waivers is not on the agenda, and that's why I wanted Dr. Veloz-Powell to define why it is always entangled with the two, but I didn't want to go into the details of that, okay? So thank you.